What if you've been using your brain the wrong way every time you speak a foreign language? Do you really know how to train your mind to process the language directly instead of translating it? Welcome back to another masterclass episode here at the English Practice Lab podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Sarah. Picture this. You are in an important meeting or chatting with a native speaker. You have a brilliant idea, but right before you open your mouth, you freeze. You double-check your grammar, scan your vocabulary for the most sophisticated terms, and second-guess your pronunciation. By the time your mental filter approves the sentence, the conversation has moved on.
That agonizing hesitation is driven by a hidden enemy, perfectionism. Many learners believe that wanting to speak flawless English is an asset, but in reality, extreme perfectionism acts like a psychological brake system. It causes severe performance anxiety, leads to overthinking, and ultimately triggers procrastination or outright avoidance of speaking.
Psychological data suggests that language learners generally fall along a behavioral spectrum, often visualized as a classic bell curve. On one extreme, you have roughly 22% of learners who are completely non-perfectionistic. They talk constantly, possess zero anxiety, but unfortunately, because they disregard feedback, they rarely fix systemic errors.
On the opposite end of the spectrum sits the maladaptive perfectionist. These individuals maintain impossibly high, rigid standards, paired with an intensely brutal inner critic. They view any mistake as absolute proof of personal failure. This mindset triggers a high fear of negative evaluation, leading to chronic silence and eventual burnout.
But right in the middle of that bell curve is our target destination, the adaptive perfectionist. These language learners hold high personal standards for excellence, but combine them with incredibly low levels of self-criticism. They view errors not as personal flaws, but as essential data points for growth.
Our mission today at the English Practice Lab is to transition you out of the paralyzing red zone of extreme perfectionism and transform you into an adaptive, resilient English communicator. Let's break down our strategic 3-step roadmap to achieve this mental shift.
Step number 1 requires an absolute, fundamental overhaul of your relationship with mistakes. Traditional educational structures conditioned us to associate errors with red ink, bad grades, and deep shame. In natural language acquisition, however, this framework is completely backwards.
Exactly, Sarah. In the real world, quantity of production is what ultimately creates quality of output. You cannot intellectually study your way into flawless spoken English while sitting in complete silence. You must actively produce an immense volume of spoken language, which naturally means making a high volume of mistakes.
Think of it like learning to play an instrument or mastering a sport. A basketball player doesn't expect to sink every single shot on day 1 without missing thousands during practice. Yet language learners expect their mouths to produce perfect phonetic and grammatical structures immediately.
This pressure actually intensifies as your level increases. When you are a beginner, you expect to make mistakes, so the stakes feel low. But as you transition into an intermediate or advanced level, you develop a reputation for being good at English. Suddenly, you feel an immense pressure to maintain an illusion of perfection.
To break this paralyzing cycle, we need to take inspiration from elite language learners. Take famous polyglot Benny Lewis, for instance. He openly states that his explicit goal when learning a new language is to make at least 200 intentional mistakes a day. He actively gamifies his errors because he knows that if he is making mistakes, it means he is pushing the boundaries of his current linguistic capability.
When you shift your mindset to match an adaptive perfectionist, you stop viewing mistakes as setbacks. Every single time you use the wrong preposition or mispronounce a vowel, you haven't failed. You have simply highlighted the exact area that needs optimization. Mistakes are the literal map to your future fluency.
Step number 2 introduces a vital, paradigm-shifting operational framework we call the ready to speak rule, also known as the 80% principle. If you are an extreme perfectionist, your internal programming constantly dictates a strict, unyielding law. You must never open your mouth unless you feel 100% prepared, 100% grammatically accurate, and 100% certain of the outcome. You treat everyday speech like a high-stakes final exam, where anything less than an absolute A+ score equals total, humiliating failure. This mindset keeps you trapped in complete silence.
But here is the harsh, undeniable reality of human communication. Waiting for 100% readiness means you will be waiting forever. True perfection in a living, fluid language simply does not exist. It is a complete illusion created by rigid school systems. If you closely observe native speakers in their natural environment, they constantly slip up, stutter, mispronounce complex words, completely change their sentence structures mid-thought, and lean heavily on basic filler words like or like. If native speakers themselves aren't perfect, why on earth do you expect yourself to be?
Exactly, John. The 80% principle states that if your spoken utterance is 80% clear, structurally coherent, and fully capable of conveying your core message, it is officially good enough to launch. You must push it out immediately. In real-world communication, genuine human connection always trumps technical perfection. If the person standing right in front of you clearly understands your underlying intent, your message, and your general meaning, you have successfully achieved 100% practical, real-world success in that social interaction. The technical details simply do not matter in that moment.
Let's look at a concrete, everyday example to prove this exact point. Imagine you are talking to a colleague at work, and you blurt out to them, "If I wouldn't have gone out, I wouldn't have met him." Is that specific sentence grammatically flawless according to formal textbook rules? Absolutely not. The conditional structure is quite messy, and the final verb form is totally incorrect. But is it 80% clear? Yes, it is. Any native speaker will instantly grasp exactly what you mean, without a second thought, and the conversation will keep moving forward naturally.
However, look closely at the alternative scenario. If you pause your speech for 12 painful seconds of awkward silence to mentally calculate the complex third conditional rule before saying that sentence, you completely destroy the natural rhythm of human connection. The adaptive perfectionist always prioritizes conversational momentum over the rigid accuracy of the textbook. You can always refine your grammar rules later during your private study sessions, but you can never recover a lost conversational moment once it passes.
This brings us directly to step number 3, which is your highly practical, actionable daily training routine, the Speak First, Fix Later challenge. If you look closely at how extreme perfectionists operate, they constantly try to perform intense, real-time editing while they speak. They force their brain to simultaneously create meaningful content, arrange complex grammar structures, monitor phonetic pronunciation, and critique their own performance, all at the exact same time. It is a recipe for complete conversational paralysis.
Doing all of that at once creates severe cognitive overload. Your brain is simply not designed to efficiently manage a creative output task while simultaneously running a harsh, judgmental internal auditing process. Something is bound to crash, and usually it's your fluency. The brilliant secret of the Speak First, Fix Later strategy is that it completely separates these two distinct, conflicting cognitive functions, so your mind can actually breathe.
Here is exactly how you can execute this powerful challenge on your own at home. Take out your smartphone, open your favorite voice recorder application, and select a very casual, everyday topic. For instance, you could describe your primary goals for the upcoming week. summarize a fascinating book you recently finished, or simply talk about your current career path and professional ambitions.
Once you have your topic, set a timer for precisely one uninterrupted 1-minute engagement. Hit the record button and immediately begin speaking out loud. Now, here is the absolute golden rule of this entire challenge. You are strictly forbidden from stopping, correcting your mistakes, or pausing heavily to search for a missing vocabulary word. If you make a massive, embarrassing grammar mistake, ignore it and keep moving forward. If you completely forget a specific word, use circumlocution to describe it or just skip it entirely. But keep your voice active and flowing until the timer rings.
During this crucial first phase, your analytical inner editor must be completely turned off. You are purely training your brain's natural fluency pathways, forcing it to prioritize continuous, uninterrupting vocal delivery over flawless academic accuracy. You are teaching your brain that it is safe to keep speaking, even when things aren't perfect.
Let's do a quick structural recap of our 3-step adaptive roadmap to defeat perfectionism and unlock your true speaking potential. Shift your attitude. Move completely away from the crippling fear of making grammatical errors. Instead, actively gamify your learning process by setting a bold goal to make up to 200 intentional mistakes a day to drastically accelerate your linguistic growth. The 80% principle. Always prioritize real-world communication and human connection over flawless textbook accuracy. If your underlying meaning is 80% clear, don't hesitate. Execute and deliver your sentence immediately. Speak first, fix later. Train your brain by recording unedited 1-minute monologues on your phone to build natural flow. Completely separate your creative speech from your analytical review process, and then carefully analyze your errors afterward.
Now, it's time for your official English Practice Lab challenge. We don't want you to just listen to this podcast and go back to your old overthinking habits. We want to see you push past your comfort zone right now in the comments. Go down to the comments section below and deliberately type out a specific grammar mistake you frequently find yourself making in English. Or share a funny, embarrassing story of a time you completely messed up during a conversation. Let's normalize imperfection, break the stigma, and celebrate our learning process together as a global community.
If this episode helped you see that your true worth and capability as an English speaker isn't tied to a flawless, rigid textbook definition, please make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Give this video a big thumbs up and share it with a friend or colleague who is letting overthinking and perfectionism hold them back from achieving true fluency.
Thank you so much for dedicatedly practicing with us today here at the lab. Stop trying to be absolutely perfect. Start focusing entirely on being deeply understood. And we will see you in our very next masterclass lesson.
Keep practicing every single day. Boldly embrace your mistakes. And goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.